You know what they say about trust in professional wrestling, it's not if someone betrays you, it's when. But nobody, and I mean absolutely nobody, saw this one coming the way it came. Because this wasn't a rival sneaking up from behind. This wasn't some jealous challenger who'd been circling for months. No. This was a partner. This was someone Lyra Valkyria had bled alongside, had fought for, had defended when everyone else said she was crazy for sticking around. And on Monday Night Raw, with the whole world watching, Bayley looked Lyra Valkyria dead in the eyes and chose herself. What happened next will be talked about for a very long time. Let's go all the way back because context is everything in professional wrestling. To understand why this moment hit like a freight train, you have to understand the road these two women walked together, and just how twisted and complicated that road really was. Cast your mind back to WrestleMania 41. Bayley and Lyra Valkyria had clawed their way through a brutal gauntlet match to earn a shot at the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships, held by Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. It was supposed to be their crowning moment. Two women who had fought each other, who had clashed over championships and pride, finally setting that history aside and marching into the grandest stage of them all as a united front. The arena was electric. The story was beautiful. And then right before the match, Bayley was found attacked backstage. She was out. Just like that. Laid out, unable to compete, robbed of her WrestleMania moment by an unknown assailant. And Lyra Valkyria was left standing alone in that gorilla position, staring down at the ramp, with no partner and an impossible decision ahead of her. And then the music hit. Becky Lynch, the man herself, back in WWE after nearly a year away, walked through that curtain, and the crowd absolutely lost their minds. She stepped up. She and Lyra won the titles that night. It was one of the most emotionally charged moments of WrestleMania 41. But beneath that celebration, something had been left unresolved. Bayley was still somewhere in that arena, bruised and betrayed, watching it all happen without her. And here's where the story gets darker. Because it came out eventually that it wasn't some random attacker who put Bayley on the floor that night. It was Becky Lynch. The man had returned not as a hero, but as an opportunist. She saw a vacancy, she created it, and she walked right through the door. And Lyra, who had no idea, had spent that WrestleMania night celebrating with the very woman who had destroyed her partner. What followed was a slow-burning chapter of WWE Raw that kept fans riveted all summer long. Becky turned on Lyra the very next night after WrestleMania, manhandle slamming her into the canvas after they lost the tag titles right back to Liv and Raquel. The friendship evaporated in seconds. The rivalry began. They fought at Backlash. Lyra won. They fought again at Money in the Bank. Becky won, taking the Women's Intercontinental Championship from the Irish Warrior. Meanwhile, Bayley eventually returned. And she came back with fire. She confronted Becky, she attacked her, she made it absolutely clear that she hadn't forgotten or forgiven what happened on the night of WrestleMania. And somewhere in that mess of feuds and grudges, Bayley and Lyra ended up on the same side again, uneasy allies at first, orbiting each other with suspicion, but eventually finding a rhythm together as a tag team once more. But this partnership was never smooth. Everyone who was watching closely knew that. It was fractured from the start, patched together with duct tape and spite for their common enemies. There were warning signs everywhere. Bayley yelling at Lyra backstage. Bayley shoving Lyra after a match they'd just won together. Bayley's behavior growing more volatile, more unhinged, more impossible to predict from one week to the next. Fans in arenas across the country were whispering about it constantly. You could see it in Lyra's face every time she stood in that ring next to Bayley, that slight hesitation, that flicker of uncertainty. Is she going to have my back tonight? Or is she going to snap? Lyra herself had said it as clearly as she could. After the chaos of SummerSlam, she had cornered Bayley backstage and told her exactly where they stood. Not friends. Not enemies. Just stay out of my life. Valkyria had tried to put distance between herself and what she called Bayley's vortex, that swirling, chaotic energy that seemed to pull everything and everyone into disaster. But every time Lyra tried to walk away, the story kept pulling them back together. And so there they were, heading into this Raw with the Women's Tag Team Championship picture very much on their minds. They'd been chasing a title shot. They'd had meetings with Adam Pearce that went nowhere. They'd sat on the locker room floor together pouting like two kids who didn't get picked for the team. There was something almost endearing about it, these two complex, proud, brilliant women, reduced to sulking in a hallway because the business wasn't going their way. Fans had started to actually root for them. Actually, genuinely root for Bayley and Lyra to get it together and go win those titles. That hope made what happened on Raw so devastating. The match was set. Bayley and Lyra Valkyria against a team that had been making life difficult for everyone on the Raw women's roster. The crowd was with them. The energy was right. And for most of that match, it looked like the partnership had finally clicked. Lyra was moving with that incredible athleticism that makes her one of the most technically gifted performers in WWE today. Those spinning kicks, that aerial precision, the footwork that makes her look like she's dancing even when she's fighting for her life. Bayley was scrapping, brawling, using every dirty trick in her arsenal, playing the experienced veteran who knows exactly where the line is and how to walk it. They were tagging in and out smoothly. They were cutting the ring off, using double team combinations, looking every bit like a legitimate championship caliber team. The crowd was on its feet, and you could see Lyra starting to allow herself to relax into it just a little. Just enough to let her guard down. That was the mistake. Because at some point during that match, something shifted in Bayley's eyes. If you go back and watch the footage, really watch it, not just the highlights but the quiet moments between the moments, you can see it. That calculation. That's something she was turning over in her head while she stood on the apron. And when the moment came, when Lyra was in position, when Lyra was vulnerable, when Lyra needed her partner the most, Bayley stepped off that apron and let it happen. The arena went silent for a split second. That horrible, disorienting quiet that happens when a crowd can't quite process what they just saw. And then the boos came crashing down like a wave, and Lyra was on the mat, and Bayley was standing at ringside with an expression on her face that was ice cold. Not guilty. Not conflicted. Done. She didn't storm the ring. She didn't scream. She just watched. And that somehow made it worse. Because rage you can understand, jealousy you can trace back to its source, but that cold stillness, that deliberate withdrawal of support, that looked like something that had been building for a very long time, like a decision that had been made long before the bell even rang. Lyra Valkyria stumbled to her feet after it was all over, and the look on her face was something that transcended professional wrestling. It wasn't just athletic frustration. It was the look of someone realizing that they had been right all along, right to be suspicious, right to be cautious, right to keep their walls up, and that despite all of that, they'd still let themselves get burned. One fan in the front row was caught on camera just shaking his head slowly, hands on his face. Another woman near the hard camera side was already recording everything on her phone, looking equal parts stunned and fascinated. Someone in the upper deck had a handmade Lyra Valkyria sign, and they slowly, theatrically turned it around. The atmosphere in that building was unlike anything you usually get from a women's division segment, and that is a testament to how deeply this story has been told. Now, what does this mean going forward? Because this isn't just a betrayal, it's a catalyst. Bayley has never been a simple character to understand, and that's what makes her one of the most compelling performers in WWE history. She started out as the wonderfully dorky, inflatable tube man enthusiast who just wanted to hug everyone. She evolved into the calculating, manipulative role model who weaponized every relationship she ever had. Then she came back as something more authentic, battle-scarred, wiser, still a little chaotic but genuinely trying. And now she's done something that suggests all of that growth might have been surface level. Or maybe, and this is the more interesting read, she's done something that she believes is entirely justified, and she's ready to explain every bit of it. Because Bayley has history with being overlooked. She has history with being the person who does the work and doesn't get the credit. She was left out of WrestleMania 41. She watched Lyra celebrate with Becky Lynch while she was laying on the floor backstage with nobody checking on her. She came back, fought her way into relevance, formed this tag team, played nice, and still couldn't get a title shot while the people who had wronged her kept moving forward. Is this excusable? Absolutely not. Is it understandable? If you've been paying attention, more than you'd like to admit. And Lyra Valkyria, what chapter does she enter now? This woman has been through so much in the last year on Raw. She was betrayed by Becky Lynch. She lost the Women's Intercontinental Championship. She tried to rebuild, tried to find a partner she could actually trust, and she ended up right back at square one. But here's what you need to know about Lyra Valkyria: she doesn't crumble. She gets angry. And when Lyra Valkyria gets angry, she becomes one of the most dangerous performers in that locker room. The WrestleMania season is approaching. The stakes are climbing. And now there is a vendetta running through the Raw women's division that has real blood in it, metaphorically speaking, real history, real wounds, and real consequence. Bayley versus Lyra Valkyria, with the full weight of everything they've been through together sitting on top of it like a mountain. No more tag team. No more forced civility. No more tolerating each other's chaos for the sake of a common goal. This is personal now. This is the kind of feud that defines careers. And that, right there, is why professional wrestling at its absolute best is unlike anything else in entertainment. Nobody writes a betrayal quite like the WWE writers when they're cooking. Nobody builds to a moment quite like the performers who have spent years crafting a relationship in front of millions of fans so that when it finally shatters, it doesn't just make noise, it echoes. You remember where you were sitting. You remember who you were watching it with. You remember the feeling. Lyra Valkyria came into WWE as a star in the making. She has been tested in every possible way, and every time she's gotten back up. This betrayal might be the thing that transforms her from a star in the making into something fully forged. And Bayley, the greatest of all time in many people's minds, might be about to remind everyone exactly why she's been at the center of so many of the best stories this division has ever told. That we are in for something special, and it starts right now, right here, on the road to WrestleMania. If this breakdown of what went down on Raw hit different for you, if you're as locked in on this storyline as we are here at Wrestling Impact, drop a comment below and tell us, are you Team Bayley, or are you riding with Lyra? Because this is the kind of story where even the villain makes you think twice. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell, because we are not slowing down on this coverage as WrestleMania season heats up. Every Raw, every SmackDown, every swerve and every swerve inside the swerve, we've got you covered. This is Wrestling Impact. We'll see you on the other side.